Today on Switch to Linux, we want to give you some tips about not giving every bit of your data to everybody in the world to market to you, target to you, and yes, even use that data to commit fraud and scams against you. Welcome back to Switch to Linux. If you like this type of content, subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so. Leave us a like and a comment down below. And today we are going to be talking a little bit about digital sovereignty as one more place around the world is looking to ditch Windows because they just don't want this much reliance on all of these American-based companies. And I don't blame them. America is a wild, wild west. In fact, you know, it's just like, they can collect a bunch of your data and you be like, hey, delete my data. Like, we don't have any laws that tell us we have to, so we ain't gonna. We make too much money off of your data that we've somehow collected. Remember, there's even a data broker company that actually collects their data from stolen information. When information is leaked by malicious actors on the dark web and they spill it out, there is one data broker company that collects all that stuff up and then turns around and sells all that data to all these other data brokers. If you need to know any other reason to entirely banish or abolish the entirety of the data broker industry, that would be a very good example. But France is looking to ditch Windows entirely. They've already wanted to move away from Microsoft Teams, and now they're looking to ditch Windows because they are just sick of a data harvesting company that seems to think every bit of data on the internet is their personal tool to extract dollars from, and they're sick of them being in a country with absolutely no federal level privacy laws. And so they are looking at switching to Linux. Now, they do not have a solid master plan yet, but that really is what they are trying to do. And this has been a trend around the EU countries to do this. Now, I talked about in our news last week, we did the digital danger is in the house. And this was based on an FBI warning to tell people, hey, stop using these foreign apps. They could be collecting your data. And this entire article here, this entire news clip, if you haven't seen it, is literally saying, yeah, all of the companies here steal your data too. My best advice, if you can, switch to a flip phone. But suppose you want to hold on to your smartphone. We do want to follow up with this video and give you a few tips about how you can maintain your own digital sovereignty. And there was an article, I think this was originally published in January of 25, but it was updated in February of 26 from PC Mag, showing us the top 20 popular apps that are completely killing your privacy. And, of course, a lot of these apps, they just collect all this data. You do realize most of these apps are free because you are the product. The app is there to harvest all of your information. Like, does Candy Crush really need your location data? Do they really need it? It is a game that throws up little, I think, I've never played it. I mean, this could be wrong, but is it kind of like a Tetris-y type thing? You know, you throw it up there. Not, maybe Dr. Mario would be better, right? You kind of throw some things up there. You got to line stuff around and then make them all go. Does something like this really need anything more than like no permissions at all? No. It's actually one of the top 20. Because Candy Crush, why not? This was actually put together by the IT infrastructure NSoft. Marin Marinock, head of IT infrastructure at NSoft, which is apparently a gaming and sports book platform. Never heard of them. If you know anything about me, I'm not a huge sports fan. So anyway, they did rank these from best to worst. And we obviously, Facebook and Messenger, no surprise there. No surprise there that the top couple companies here are all Google, Meta, Amazon, and Microsoft, right? We got Facebook, we got Instagram, we got LinkedIn, we got Amazon, we've got YouTube. X is up there as well. There's a fun one. PayPal's on there. You thought you were just giving money to your friends. Nope. In fact, PayPal's over there. Look at this. 8.6% of the data. Let me look at these columns up here. Are 8.6% of your data is shared with third parties for PayPal. And 25% is collected for developers, advertising, and marketing. These are those third-party scripts that just collect your data to sell ads. 25% of personal data is collected for analytics. Okay, they want to know who's using it. 25% of your data is collected for product personalization. Like, can I just have a toggle button that says, I don't want a better user experience? Can we do that? Is that something we can push? That'd be awesome. 54% of data is collected for app functionality. Okay, and 65% of data is collected for quote unquote other purposes. Enriching people, I guess. You got Uber, you got Google Pay, excuse me. Amazon Prime Video, Spotify's on the list. Look at this. Spotify does a lot. Snapchat, Google Maps, Shopee, never heard of that one. TikTok, Rumble, email. Look at this. Your email app, if you're using Gmail. Your email app is out there collecting, look at 8.6% of your personal data is going to third parties. What are they sending? I don't know. Duolingo, Candy Crush Saga, Tinder, and of course we have the children's game Roblox. Now 0% is going there. 20% is connected to developers, advertising, and marketing. 20% of this is an app that is allegedly for children, and 20% of the data collected is going to marketers. 42% they say for analytics, 25% for product personalization, and more for app functionality. So they looked in here at a number of different things. This one here, whoever thought that this was a good color scheme, fire them immediately. We will try to make sense of this, but if you think you can't read it, I can't really read it much either. But this is actually a bunch of apps specifically targeted to kids, which analysis have found these types of subscription apps pose serious privacy risks. 70% of apps collected identifying information, and more than half shared user, which is your child's data, with third parties. This is a serious problem. And so here's sharing with third parties. Here's the Dr. Panda series, ABC Mouse, Epic Prodigy, Toko the World, Lingo Kids. Is that like a kid's version of Duolingo? I don't know. I've never heard of these. Sago Mini World. Oh, look at this. Khan Academy for Kids. How wonderful. So there's a number of different apps in here specifically targeted towards children. And these are also doing a bunch of data collection about your children and then sending it out to mostly advertisers, among other things. Obviously, social media apps are high on that list. This is kind of how they function. In fact, social media apps is kind of where all this nonsense began, so we can kind of blame them for it. Amazon and YouTube also, that makes sense. Finance and video streaming apps are also on the list. PayPal ranks 7th because it collects a significant amount of data. They did then look at these ones the FBI will warn you about. Ooh, these are apps are made in foreign countries. You can see, though, that most of these are China. So what do we got? Singapore has a couple of them here. One in UAE, that's of course Telegram, which is kind of a murky origin. You know, the developer of Telegram, who was held in was it a French jail, I think, for a while. He actually has ties to Russia, UAE, and France. So which country of origin is this? It's murky. All right, we have Cyprus there, and then everything else here is China. So how many of these apps that are constantly collecting data in the background about you, by the way? In fact, I had to log into a client's TikTok account today to look at some analytics reports they were doing. And they actually have a toggle button inside there in TikTok saying, hey, would you like us to track you around the internet to push you targeted ads based on your account around the whole internet? It's like, hey, at least they're being honest about what they're doing. But no, that's horribly dystopian. Wasn't my account, so I didn't toggle the buttons around. I was just there to look at the analytics. TikTok's a dumpster fire, by the way. Here's... when is it acceptable? And this one here, like weather apps, is it really acceptable in weather apps? I mean, I'm perfectly capable of, grabbing a phone and typing in the city. And by the way, the entire collecting data in the weather app itself is a misnomer, because there's really only a limited number of weather stations, and it takes your location and then pings you to the nearest one, which you're going to accomplish the same thing by going in and typing in the city. Okay, but here's the fact. Most people aren't leaving outside their regions. You do not need to turn on location services for your weather app. The weather is not changing if you're on this end of town or that end of town. It all connects to the same base station. Stop doing that. But they're collecting that data because they can better target you with advertising when you're doing that. In fact, I even have a spyware device right here. This is an iPhone SE. And I have this, of course, I mentioned for a project I was working on here. And hey, since it's here, let's look at the weather. Look at this. You can actually go in there and you can actually give it a list of different weather places. I can just put in a number of lists and I can move the one that's default to the top. So if I want to keep an eye on one particular area, it's there. I can just click on that and see it. And I don't need to give location services to that. I can just enter the city. I'm a competent and capable human being. So I do not agree with the characterization that the web app needs this. Now, sometimes your Lyft and your Uber, if you're using those, sure, they need to know that. You need to know precisely where to pick somebody up, precisely where to drop them. Uber Eats, of course, the food delivery apps, other delivery applications. Yeah, they need to know where you are roughly. I mean, I say like the ones that are physically picking up your body from a random location, I get that. The ones that are dropping you, like dropping something off to your house, you do not need location services turned on. You can give them your address. But we have been dumbed down and think, oh, I gotta turn on my location services. Uber Eats knows you know where I'm at. It's your address. It doesn't change. What are you? Are you Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz? Is a tornado flying you around? They need to use location services to figure out where the hell you are? I mean, really? Put in your address. All right. So ultimately, with a lot of these apps, you need to consider deleting these things. And so I put together a list of 4 basic steps that we wanted to look at here. The first thing I want to mention, and this appeals to this urgency. Our current culture is based tremendously on urgency. We have AI apps to increase your productivity and download our app, do it now. And you can order your McDonald's and just drive on through and pick it up. You don't even need to stop and talk to the AI, which is full of bugs right now. You know, you do it quickly. It's so much quicker and all this. And I want to slow down, find maybe a nice campground like where I'm at here. Just get off the grid for a little bit. Get off the grid as I'm sitting here in a extremely computerized technological van recording a YouTube video. Okay. Anyway, you understand. I did still hike about 5 miles today. Okay. There's a beautiful river down here, and I hiked about 5 miles, and it was a beautiful place. And I went out and I touched grass. I haven't got a big old cut on my shin. It's great, man. Oh, I miss those nice cuts. Scraped it on a big old massive boulder on the riverbed. Oh, it was great. All right. But you don't need to be so hasty. Not everything needs done right now. Ooh, I need to do something. Make a note of it. Go home and take care of it. And I think back to this and say, you know, when I was in grad school, of course, we were starving college students, and our contract, because I was on a free ride, and part of our contract is you're not allowed to have an external job. So I had to make work with the amount of money they deemed necessary. Of course, this is right when the government started throwing all this money into student loans and housing prices were marketing. So like 50% of the money they handed me goes to rent. I'm like, ooh, all right. So I cut off internet at my house. I didn't have internet. And I still did use the internet banking. Early days, of course, of internet banking. Kind of scary. But I had keys to our building. We had T3 lines. I would just go to my office and boot up the internet. I know it's kind of crazy we did that, but that's how it was back then. I'd go in there. I'd log into all the banking stuff after hours. I was the only one there in the office, and I'd do all my stuff I needed, look up whatever I needed to look up on the internet. I log out of everything. I shut the computer down, and I go home, and I didn't have internet at home. Now, today, we can manage this. You know, most of us in our homes, we have a constantly connected broadband internet. That's fairly standard these days. But even so, you don't have to be so hasty to take care of every little thing right this second. Make a note of it, go home, sit in front of the computer, and take care of it. Why do I say this? Things like payment apps. Oh, we'll go out and share our money. You can Venmo me the money right now. Okay, well, Venmo me the money right now. I was sitting over here. Well, meanwhile, Venmo is collecting who you're at, where you're at, all these different factors around it. They're building more of a profile to make you more discontent in your life so that you end up buying more stuff. You could be like, okay, great. This is how we're splitting up. I mean, obviously you go in with a lot of cash, you can do that, but you're like, okay, great. This is how much I owe you. All right, we're going to go home tonight. I'm going to send you the money on PayPal tonight. I'm going to log into PayPal tonight. I'm going to go ahead and do that. You can take care of things like your vehicle registrations. I mean, I still update my insurance and my registrations, all these types of things. Living on the road, I got to do that. In fact, I even do some things that I'm not a huge fan of. Like I kind of want the paper bills coming to my mail. I can honestly say, if you have enough discipline, cut off the paper bills, go digital only, but you have to set a few times a month to collect, organize, and review everything. Okay, so I'm not totally opposed to you having, online billing or things that are sent to you in email. The biggest trap most people have those, they do that and they never open them up. So you got to open those up. But what we're saying here is you can take care of all these types of important things you need to do. You don't need to do it with the app right this second. You can make a note of it, sit down at night, take care of it all at once. And by the way, you will be far more efficient if you have a list of things you need to take care of. You go into your computer, you turn it on, and for 1 hour, you're taking care of a bunch of things. That way you didn't interrupt 7 different things in the process of fiddling around with some crazy app. Meanwhile, the app is over there spying on what you're doing. And this is a fundamental problem. So point number 1, do not be so hasty. You do not have to handle everything right now, right here. The second thing I want to mention is that many of these apps out there that they want you to download, suppose you do find an app useful. Most apps, not everyone, but most apps, you can accomplish the exact same thing by going to the company website with a standard web browser. The advantage of the app for the company, the disadvantage for you is the app can be embedded with a whole bunch of trackers and marketing that the web browser may not have in it. But I do want to illustrate, you have to be careful what your web browser is. Here is Firefox on the Google Play Store. If you look at Firefox on the Google Play Store, it can access a lot of information. Device ID, app activity, app and performance, personal information, location. Also, it's not listed on this report. This can access your camera and your microphone. You say, whoa, what's it doing that for? Well, the reason it has those permissions is if you happen to click a link for a web conference, and you can still take care of a web conference on your phone on a mobile browser, and it needs access to your cameras and your microphones. This is why the app has those options for those permissions. But did you know there is a version of Firefox that completely cuts out all of those? On the Google Play Store, it's called Firefox Clar. If you grab it from a more open source place, you will see it called Firefox Focus. It has the purple logo, not the blue logo. The blue logo is the unstable, the beta, the testing version, or the nightly. This is the purple logo. This one here does not have the ability to access your phone's cameras, microphones, or GPS location. If you look at the Google Play Store, information, crash logs, app interactions, and that is it. No data shared with third parties. Data is encrypted, and you can request data be deleted. All right. I want to see, how does this compare to like Brave? Here's Brave. Brave apparently does nothing. Okay. So I'm curious if you can access a web conference with Brave. Actually, I don't know. Let me see if I have Brave on my Graphene OS and see what permission options it actually has. Bear with me for just one moment. Let me find that in my system. I'm pretty sure I have Brave installed on this. And let's see. Oh, I do not have Brave installed on this. Okay. I do not use Brave a whole lot on a phone. But looking at permissions for Firefox, though, permission options, I can give it access for cameras and locations and microphones and notifications. But if I go back and do Firefox Focus, there is no options there at all for permissions for cameras, microphones, or location. And that's what we're talking about. So I don't have Brave installed on that phone. Let me see if I have it installed on this phone. I do have Brave, I know I have Brave installed on something here. Let's see what we got here. Apps over here. Actually, let me just do this. I know I don't have Brave installed on that one either. I thought I had Brave installed on something around here. Maybe it's my other phone, which isn't even turned on. But allegedly it doesn't, so I do not know if it has access to all those microphone permissions. DuckDuckGo is interesting because this is interesting. So this is, of course, not the search engine, the browser. They have a browser version for Android. No data share with third parties. But look at this. It collects email address, which I guess is optional. It collects app activity, obviously, app and performance information, analytics. On this basis, I would not be using DuckDuckGo as it's doing analytics. Let me see. Are these doing analytics as well? Yeah, there's no analytics on Clar. There are analytics on Firefox, which you can turn off. And I didn't see any analytics on Brave. DuckDuckGo has analytics. There's no notes about being able to turn it off. It also, look at this, data, there's no way to request that your data be delivered. So while DuckDuckGo is pushed out as a big privacy option, I would probably not use that on your device. According to just the documentation provided to Google Play services, which by and large generally tends to be accurate, I would look at Brave browser or Firefox Clar as your default browser because it's not going to have access to those, and have something like Firefox installed in the event you have an app that there is a legitimate purpose that it needs to access location services, cameras, or microphones. So that's what I do. My default app is Firefox Focus, and the backup app that I have is Firefox in the event I have an app that does that. And so you want to make certain that what you are doing here is you want to use a browser that will not collect all of this data and use most app functions inside of the browser. That's number 2. So number 3, rely less on your phone. Okay, you need to break that phone addiction. Most people are addicted to their phones, and it is a problem. So you need to break that addiction, whatever that means. Start with small steps when you're traveling about your errands, and I do recommend bringing a phone with you on your errands. If the worst should happen, you have a means to communicate with people. You might think about leaving it in a Faraday bag. You may or may not want to do that. I'm not that crazy. I don't keep that in a Faraday bag all the time. I keep my phone about me. But when I go into a store, when you go into your place, you go out for your walk in the park because you want to touch grass, you leave your phone inside of your car. Particularly if you're going into stores, because they tend to like tracking all those little signals your phone takes and receives and things like that. And they can still use that to track you around the store, particularly if you have turned on your Bluetooth services or your Wi-Fi. They can track you around the phone, and they have a reasonable assumption that it's you that they are tracking around the store. So you want to be very careful about that. But leave your phone in the car, particularly when you go into grocery stores and things like that. If you're at home, if possible, leave it in another room. That may not always be possible. Some people do need to keep their phone around. Some people, it's the only way to communicate. You need to get the phone call from the mother-in-law, whatever else happens. So it may not always be possible, but here's the one that'll help the most. Delete every app from your phone that is not mission critical, and every app on your phone that serves the purpose of, spending a few minutes. There is no legitimate purpose you should have a game on your phone. Get games off your phone. Okay. They are time wasters. They do nothing but soak up extra time. You could be doing other things. And particularly at home, if you find yourself sitting at home playing with mobile games and not getting other stuff done, or not relaxing with your family or things like that, that is a legitimate thing that is messing with your addictive patterns in life. And that will encourage you to have your phone more. Don't check your email on your phone unless it's absolutely important. Again, with email, I have my email on the phone if I need it. If I'm looking for an email, somebody's going to send me something, I know to look at it. I can check my email on my phone. My email does not automatically check my email. My email will not provide notifications. So I am not like, oh, ding, I got to check the email. No. My phone will not do email unless I explicitly call it to do email. Because guess what? I do not need to be enjoying a nice, peaceful walk in the park and go beep and then have my mind attention scattered from whatever my thoughts were and now onto this email because somebody thought it was important to send that email right this second. Go back to point number 1. Don't be hasty. Handle those emails at a later time. All right. And so rely on your phone less. And the fourth point I want to mention here is find alternatives for software that is data harvesting. So alternative2.net is your friend. 141,000 applications they have in their database, and you can just go in here and look for alternatives. So let's say Zoom. Okay, let's say you're using Zoom. Now, I understand there's times you cannot get away from it. Somebody's like, I'm going to send you a Zoom link. Okay. And yeah, there you go. Or how wonderful. We're using Zoom. All right. But if you have the control over those meetings, particularly if we're talking about personal meetings, maybe like I have friends that I see all the time, contrary to Tarafatin's view, I do actually have friends all over the country, and I actually have the ability to use my own private web conferencing to set up calls, and there's actually a few people I do regular weekly calls with, and I do it all on Jitsi. On a self-hosted Jitsi that I actually control all of the data and all of the flow. And so if it comes to a Zoom meeting, I'm not as inclined to start a Zoom meeting. Now, if somebody's like, hey, we need to have a meeting, here's a link for you. Okay, I guess I'm using Zoom. Sure, why not? All right, but if it comes down to it, if I'm setting the meeting, or we have the option, or like, hey, what kind of link would you want to do? Hey, I'll send the link. I use Jitsi. Now you can there's a number of Jitsi options that are out there. I think the official one might now need an account because of some stupid regulation in some country it's in. But they actually have a list of other open servers. Mine is a closed server, but I would give access to my friends if they need to host calls on it as well. But you can also self-host it. It's very easy. There's install scripts for it, but there are public listings of good available Jitsi servers out there that you can use. And then there's a bunch of other ones that I've never heard of. Of course, we use Matrix. Matrix as a good Discord alternative. Yeah, you can do all your web conferencing through Matrix. Proton has a new one with Proton Meet. Nextcloud Talk is moving better. Microsoft Teams, we'll not talk about that one. But there are a number of different options. You see here they have 235 potential Zoom alternatives. And you can go in here, you can sort by the licensing, by the platform. Are they open source? Are they free? Are they in the EU, USA? Here's the Americas, United States, EU. So you can sort by absolutely anything you want to sort by. And I would encourage you to look at all of the software that you use on a regular basis and look at their privacy policies. And if they're collecting a bunch of your data, punch those software names into Alternative 2. Look for alternatives and play with some of them. Even if you choose not to change, you are at least are in better position to understand the potential risks of having that data being used. And so hopefully as we get to the end of this video, hopefully this is a useful video for you to understand that we want to all have digital sovereignty in our lives. Digital sovereignty are for all of us, and we have to take active steps to control the amount of information about about us that companies out there have. So those are the things that I wanted to mention. So let me know your thoughts about all of this in the comments down below. And also give us your tips while you're down there. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.